Yeah, hello there, good evening. My name is Tonye. I am originally from West Africa. I'm currently based in London, Europe, and I'll be spending time talking about my two near-death experiences. And I hope to contribute to the fast-growing channel. And I also hope to enjoy myself during this brief period. I have no background about my first near-death experience. I think I was 11 or 10 years old when it happened. And I had a pretty normal childhood for anybody who was born around my period. So, I mean, I came from an okay family, but I think that kids don't really have any attachments to if their parents are wealthy or not. So based on that definition, I think I had a pretty normal childhood, nothing out of the ordinary. I was like almost any other kid, did normal things kids did. But when I got to about 10 or 11 years old, I went to my cousin's house because they lived about 5, 10 minutes from where we lived. I just walked there and they were going to the beach to swim. And I was excited to go to the beach as well, but mostly for the candies and the cake because I couldn't swim. So that was my main reason to go to the beach, just to go eat a lot of candy and drink soft drinks and eat cake. So they called my mom and told my mom, is it okay to take me along? And I went along with them. So when we got to the beach, obviously I had my mission in my head just to eat and drink. But I saw people surfing and swimming and having so much fun. I actually forgot that I couldn't swim. So I saw people surfing and they were having so much fun. And because my cousins were half European, their mom was French and they were African, so it wasn't normal at that time in the 80s, early 80s, to for Africans to go swim out of curiosity. We normally went swimming probably during like a Christmas or a New Year or some party where we all go as a family, but it wasn't something normal to just go and swim for fun. So I think they came with other friends, and I saw a surfboard there. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm gonna try and see if I can do it because I saw a 5 year old, I would think 5 year old kid trying to swim, trying to surf. So I knew in my mind as an 11-year old that if a 5 year old can surf, surely I as an 11-year old can surf as well. But obviously life doesn't work that way, right? So I took the board and my plan was to just make sure I don't go too far into the ocean just to get the water on my knee level. But I had no idea that the receding waves would pull me further into the ocean than I had planned in my mind. And I was waiting for the wave to come. So I do like I saw everybody else doing. And before I knew it, a massive wave, probably like 2 foot came and hit me, you know. And because I had no balance and I could not swim, I went in head first and sand went into my nostrils and I was struggling and struggling and struggling. I came up the first time, another wave came, hit me again. I went under again. I was struggling. My eyes were red. I was panicking. I can't swim. I was just, doing whatever I could to survive. When I went up the second time, I could see people on the beach. They were having fun. And I was thinking to myself, I mean, these people can see I'm drowning. And before I know it, within the 3 seconds that I'm guessing, I don't know, but I'm just guessing 3 seconds, that my head came up the water for the second time to go down, I saw my life flash in front of me. When I say flash, it was more like I'm having a conversation with you, and It's very slow. I can hear everything. I can respond to everything. But I saw my entire life like flash in front of me that way until I was in my mother's womb. I thought that was a bit strange when it happened, but I had no time to think because obviously I'm struggling to survive. But I realized that this is called a live review. I never knew that term. That's why I'm calling it right live review. And also for me, when I saw it, it was more like a movie, like you're watching a movie, but you are in the movie. What you're watching yourself in a movie, if that makes sense. So it was like I was in the movie theater watching myself in the movie, and everything was on a normal pace. I could hear all the conversations. I could see my assignments. I could see myself getting back in. How we moved from the house to the beach. I could see everything I had done. I could even hear the sounds of myself, my mother's stomach. But some people say that the live reviews, they were like feeling bad about things they had done or whatever. I mean, I was at 10, 11. What could I feel bad about? There was nothing I felt bad about. To me, it was just like a movie. There was no negative or positive about a live review. There was no messages. There was nothing really for me to learn from it, if that makes sense. Again, mind you, I was 10, 11 years old. I bet if I had a live review right now, I would have lots of things to regret and lots of things to think about. But at 10, 11, I was worried about candy and cakes, and there was really nothing for me to think about. But this is what I saw in my live review. So before I knew it, I went down again. By then the live review had finished, I went down again for the second time. And while I was down there, I said to myself, okay, well, this is it. I'm gone. I'm dead. It's finished. I should just, make peace with this. And before I said that, my feet touched the sand. So that gave me a bit of hope. I could feel my feet touch something, the floor. That gave me a bit of hope. And I looked up. It was sea water, but for some reason I could see something like the shape of a surfboard. So I sort of like struggled, mustered my last energy, and somehow, by some miracle, I caught the surfboard and I paddled myself out of the ocean and I went back to the beach. Mind you, I could not surf, so I did not know that you had to attach a rope from the surfboard onto my leg to prevent it from getting lost. I didn't know that, obviously. That's why I was struggling. But when I went to the beach, I said to myself, you know what, I'm just gonna sit down here and relax. I wasn't panicking. Um, it's like nobody saw me trying to drown. So it's like it was just me and myself and my thoughts. So I wasn't like panicking or scared or anything. I said to myself, let me catch my breath and let me sit down. But when I sat down on the beach, something strange happened. It's like my eyes just came alive, if that makes any sense. Just think of it like you're in a dark room with no lights, and then you switch on the lights, and everything comes alive, everything comes really bright. But this was about 2 p.m., 2 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. This happened about 40 years ago, so I can't really recall the time. But all I know is that the sun was shining really bright up. I thought that was really strange that although the sun is up, my eyes are really, really bright. And for some reason, I focused directly on the coconut tree in front of me. And it looked so vibrant, it looked alive, it looked breathing. It felt like I had never seen it before. I had never seen the coconut tree before. It felt like something alien. I mean, I felt like the coconut tree was a living being which I could communicate with, although I did not talk to it, but this was the feeling I had. And then I turned around and looked at the grass after a while, and the grass had the same feeling. It was green grass, everything. The green looked like a green I had never seen before. It was very captivating. And this thought went to my head, I think I'm in heaven. But I have no reason of thinking that I died because I just walked out of the ocean and sat on the beach. It was something I had never felt before. I never felt happy like that before. I'd never tasted Coke that way before, even though I drank it previously. I had never seen a coconut tree look that nice and beautiful before and feel alive. I'd never seen a blade of grass be so beautiful and felt like it was talking to me. So all these experiences made me want to search more about it. So I know I was in my body, but I was having these experiences. So after about a while, I'm not sure how long, I turned around, I said, let me drink something. I picked the Coke I was drinking previously, and it felt like I had never drank it before. It felt like something completely different. The taste was completely different. It was so how do I put it? I can't describe the feeling I got from drinking the Coke. And then I also had this feeling of inner peace and calm, which I had never felt before, and inner joy. But with my second near-death experience, the joy I had was more euphoric and was more blissful. It's like you have like goosebumps. You multiply that by 1,000. That's how I felt my second near-death experience. But in this one, it was more like I was much more of a peaceful feeling, much more of calm, reassured, but extremely happy. That's how I felt in this experience. And during the whole period, after everything died down, my senses came back to normal. Um, it took me a few decades to kind of like process what happened because I didn't know what happened to me. And it was like I was shocked beyond belief that I couldn't even say to anybody what happened to me during that period. It's hard to explain how shocked I was. I was shocked and amazed at the same time. So I decided that I was gonna kind of like try to do everything in my power to get back to this experience. And when I was 11 years old, I started doing yoga. Just my dad had a couple of yoga books. I started reading them. I started researching on yoga, and started doing many other things. But I never got to that experience. And when I was 17 years old, I was trying to learn how to swim in a pool. I almost drowned again. But then nothing happened to me. So I was thinking to myself, how come I almost drowned in the ocean? I had all these experiences, but when I almost drowned in the pool, nothing happened to me. That was a bit strange because I thought if I was going to drown in the pool, I was going to have the same experiences. But I wasn't trying to drown intentionally. It just happened because I could not. I could not swim. My life just continued. Like every day, I'll have like glimpses of the happiness, of the joy I felt back when I was 10 or 11 years old. And I kind of like dabble into yoga. I went through my teens, my 20s, where obviously most, not, well, I'll speak for myself. In my 20s at university, I was a bit of experimenting. But one thing I'll say about myself is after the experience, I'm almost 50, and I would say I probably had maybe one bottle of alcohol a year, my whole year. Like every year, I have the equivalent of one bottle of alcohol. So I would say I don't drink because I just drink for social events. I don't smoke. I've never used drugs, even medical drugs. This year, I think January 14th, I was lying in my bed. There was a full moon, like really bright. And I thought nothing of it. I was just like, oh, it's just a bit strange. The moon is really bright. I was looking at the moon. Then I fell asleep. And then I realized that I was awake around 2 a.m. I'm just guessing the time because I looked at my watch after the whole experience. But I realized I was awake around 2 a.m., but my eyes were still closed. But it was funny, the experience people say they go through a dark tunnel or whatever. It was a bit like that. But in my mind, in my head, it was like pitch black. And I saw something I'd only describe as water, a drop of water, a drop of water. But in reality, if I have to describe it, I would say it's more like think of it like electricity, but in a liquid form. This is the best description of what I saw, the droplet in my head. But it wasn't really in my head when I was seeing it. When I was seeing it, it was more like in a dark room. But that happened in my head. So I was just watching this drop of water, which was kind of like a bit of euphoric. It was a tingling sensation, and it was very alive. It was very interesting. So my attention was all focused on this drop of water, and before I know it, it felt like the water burst out of the back of my head. And I thought that was strange. Then it rapidly spread like an ECG machine, forming the shape of my head. And then before I know what's happening, it starts vibrating and I start feeling very ecstatic and blissful. And I was like almost shaking, my brain was vibrating. And then the more it vibrated, the more it felt uncontrollable. And the next thing I could think about again, it went from my brain down to my spine very rapidly. And when it got to my spine, it felt like my whole body exploded with ecstasy. I'm not sure how to explain, but I was shaking, I was vibrating in my bed alone. And but it was about, I'm guessing about 2 a.m. So I'm thinking to myself, this is a bit strange now. And when it became so nice and so uncontrollable, I just said to myself, stop, 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 stop. And within, I'm guessing about 5 seconds, the droplets of water went back into the back of my head, and the droplet and the vibration from my spine went back up into my head, and everything stopped. But the whole night, I could barely sleep. I probably slept for about 2 hours, I'm guessing. And when I woke up in the morning, my body had like electrostatic. If I touched something like paper, I just stuck to my hand, like anything stuck to my hand. So I went and I did like oral photographies. I think I sent a couple of other oral photographies to your email. One before the experience and one after. And you can clearly see on my oral photographies that there's like too much energy especially from my heart up to my head. And my aura is like almost like whitish blue, if that makes any sense, based on what I saw. Because I took that because I wanted to confirm to myself that what I experienced wasn't a dream, was actually real. But I don't think I have any reason to think I died. Although when I go back to all my research, I find that people who have died and left their bodies have had similar experiences to what I have had. But I can't say I died. I mean, because in both instances, there was no medical check on me to confirm that I actually died. So this has been a very, it's affected me in many different ways, and it's taken over my life in many different ways. However, I'm much more focused on living right now on Earth and not daydreaming about because these experiences they are very how do I put it? They're so profound that sometimes you might think you're living somewhere else. But I'm very grounded. I try to I like box. I do things to keep me like grounded on Earth. And that's pretty much my experience. I grew up. I was baptized as a Catholic. I went to a Catholic boarding school. I think while I had that experience, I was in a Catholic boarding school. We went to church every Sunday. I was taking like Holy Communion as a Catholic. But when I had this experience, there was nothing connected to religion, in my opinion. So it's not like I saw something about in church, and then I was relating it to it. To me, it was more like because the feelings I was having or what I was seeing was something I had never seen before. That's why the name heaven came to my head. But apart from that, I didn't have any experience with seeing God or seeing angels. I saw none of that. But I feel like I connected to the divine. And imagine, for example, God, from what everybody thinks, or people who believe in God, They believe God created everything, the galaxies, the lions, everything. And God, and if you go by that definition, God must be billions of years old. Um, think of it like when we were kids, right? Or when you or I meet a 1 year old or 5 month old, we don't go telling them, hey, I'm doing this job, I'm this, I'm doing that. The conversation is going to be more like Google Gaga, Baby Shark, or Touch Their Jaws, or so I feel more like my interaction with something out of this world was much more in that sense. It gave me what I needed at 10, 11 years old, but the experience was profound enough for me to search and know that there was something else, if that makes sense. So, because, I mean, you wouldn't expect a communication with somebody who sees you as like a toddler to be a mature conversation. It's going to be more like I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's not going to be a mature conversation. It's going to be much more like something you remember when you are older. So this is what I got from the whole experience. When I think about death, for example, if you put a gun on my head, obviously I'll do that. I'll flinch or I'll shake, or that would be my first reaction. But if you shot me with a gun and I see that I am about to die, I think I'll be a lot more calm. I wouldn't really be thinking about dying as a bad thing, but the initial reaction of putting a gun or something frightful would get me to panic, because obviously I am in my senses are honed to live in a normal world, and anything out of it would get me panicked. But the whole concept of dying is not something I'm afraid of, simply because I know from my experiences that when you are about to cross over, something else takes over your body. You become, how do I put it? Is it numb to the experience of dying? If that makes sense. People outside of it are experiencing you as suffering, but you experiencing the situation, it's more like you have a different feeling. For example, I box, and people who have never boxed before watch me boxing. They think, oh well, it's difficult, it's hard. But I doing that, I don't see it that way, because I am the one experiencing it. If that makes sense. I have seen some experiences where people say that like the last one I watched on your channel. This guy said he saw Earth as an energy ball, an orbs of energy, but I don't have never seen it that way. I see myself more as an energy body, and my body vibrates, and I have checked that. And if you look into like epilepsy, the experience I had is very similar to epilepsy. But again, I have had an epilepsy kind of like test, and it says I have no epilepsy. And I've had a few other similar experiences, but it only happened on my spine and not my head, the vibrations. And from my research, and also from another interview I did, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's Kundalini, it's sacred secretion. They're calling all these words, which I can't confirm or deny. But I'm just trying to learn as well, to see what happened to me and what's happening to me, so I can better maybe understand and live a better life. I don't have any addictions, in the sense of most people have like smoking addiction, a video game addiction, like all these things. I feel like my second experience helped me clear all those addictions in myself, and that's why I don't have the addictions. So maybe it's a message about people who are in a repetitive or addictive pattern, that if they can transcend the challenge, then there's something a lot more beautiful on the other side, if that makes sense. And also, if you look at my aura photography, you would see that on my three lower chakras, the energy concentration on them is very, very small. It's about 40%. But the higher you go up, you have a lot more energy focus on here. But in most other people, they have like a lot of energy focused on their base chakras, which is a bit different for most people. So that kind of like I would say prove my theory about addictions, because addictions is it's mental, but it's more about your base chakras than your base desires than your higher desires.